Increase in prices cost their exports, delays in shipping, geopolitical tensions, and international escalations. All these factors in today's date point towards an impending crisis that affects most world nations. We are talking about the Red Sea crisis that has come to light since the Houthi rebels have caused a massive scare on the global level by attacking the cargo ships in the region. This region, particularly, is the Bab el-Mandeb Strait and the Gulf of Aden. What has led to this crisis? What are the implications of this, and who are the Houthis? Most importantly, what role does India play in this particular crisis? We will explain all this. Stay tuned with us until the video ends, and don't forget to subscribe to Newshamster if you haven't already. The Red Sea is an important sea route. Geographically, the Red Sea is a semi-enclosed tropical basin. At the northern end, it separates the Gulf of Aqaba and the Gulf of Suez, which is connected to the Mediterranean Sea via the Suez Canal. At the southern end, it is connected to the Gulf of Aden and the outer Indian Ocean via the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb, in Arabic translating to the gateway to Mandab. It is surrounded by the desert or the semi-arid areas with no major freshwater inflow. The Red Sea contains some of the world's hottest and the saltiest sea waters. It is one of the most heavily traveled waterways in the world, carrying maritime traffic between Europe and Asia. The Red Sea is an exclusive economic zone in the Indian Ocean region. Now, what is an EEZ, or the exclusive economic zone? It is a part of the sea where a country has special rights. In this area, the country can control over exploring and using resources from the sea, like getting energy from water and wind. Now, 6 countries hold EEZ, or the exclusive economic rights, in the Red Sea. Now, these countries include Saudi Arabia, Sudan, Egypt, Eritrea, Yemen, Djibouti. In Yemen, which is one of the borders of the Red Sea, the Houthi rebels control a big part of the country, including the Red Sea coast. Even before the Red Sea crisis arose, global trade was facing troubles because of the war in Ukraine and the lower water levels in the Panama Canal due to climate change. But what is happening in the region that is causing a worldwide impact on trade? Let's find out. To understand this, we must know who are the Houthis, or the Houthi rebels in Yemen, and why are they attacking the cargo ships here now? Yemen, which was once called the heart of Arabia, is now reduced to a state of worst humanitarian crisis, along with being one of the poorest countries in the Middle East. The Houthis are a rebel group in Yemen who belong to the Houthi tribe, who follow the Zaidi Shia beliefs and are backed by Iran, and have been fighting a civil war with Yemeni government, aka the Hadi government, which is backed by the Saudi government, which neighbors Yemen. At present, the Houthis hold power in northern Yemen, including the official capital, Sana'a. The movement's broad motivation emerged from the long-standing grievances that left many Zaidis feeling like second-class citizens within the wider socio-political order in Yemen. Many in the Houthi leadership received religious education in Iran before returning to Yemen in the early 2000s and becoming more politically active in the region. The group engaged in ongoing struggles against the Ali Abdullah Saleh-led Yemeni government throughout the 2000s, ultimately contributing to its collapse following the 2011 Arab revolts. What is in the heart of this conflict between Yemen government and the Houthis is the Shia-Sunni conflict, which has been burning in the Middle East and the Gulf region for over decades, where the Saudi government backs the Sunni faction-led governments and the Iran backs the Shia faction-led government, which explains the proxy wars it fights in the form of the Houthis, the Hezbollah in Lebanon, and even Hamas to a certain extent. Though Hamas is a Sunni organization, Iran has vested interest in the same. So here's what happened recently. The ongoing conflict between the Israel and the Palestine has created the two-group divide in the Middle East, where Israel, with its backing from the US, European Union, UK, Norway, Canada, and Australia, and such nations, and Palestine backed by Iran, Iraq, Syria, Hezbollah from Lebanon, Yemen. Though there was a wide criticism against the Middle East Muslim nations that nothing was done for the Palestinians or against Israel by them. After the war in Gaza started in October 2023, the Houthis started firing missiles and drones against Israel, which marked their solidarity with Palestine and a challenge to the Israeli forces. In the latest series of attacks on commercial vessels in the Western Arabian Sea, a Marshall Island flagged oil tanker, Merlin Luanda, came under attack of the missiles. The vessel had 22 Indians and 1 Bangladeshi crew members on board. The Houthis have claimed responsibility for 2 of the attacks, as well as an earlier hijacking of a Japanese-operated cargo ship by helicopter last month. Recently, the Houthi military spokesperson Yahya Saree re-emphasized that all Israeli-affiliated vessels traveling along the Yemeni coast would be a fair game if Israel does not cease its attack on Gaza, which have claimed the lives of at least 15,500 Palestinians since October 2023. Following this, 20 of the world's major shipping companies have either rerouted their vessels or sent them to safer waters to await further instructions. In response to the Houthi attacks, the United States of America and the UK, among other nations, have launched airstrikes against the group at the sea, now on the land, further increasing tensions in this region. Due to this crisis at hand, every cargo ship or vessel in general will now have to travel extra from the Arabian Sea, going around the continent of Africa. This will cause immense disruptions like the risk of higher inflation, uncertainty in food security, increased greenhouse gas emissions, and so much more. Let us understand this in detail. As of now, shipping is taking longer by 2 weeks and container freight rates have risen up by 30%. This is affecting food prices, adding about half of the increases we've seen since the conflict in Ukraine started. The war has disrupted shipping routes, making ships avoid the Suez Canal due to safety concern. Instead, they're taking a longer route around Africa, causing delays in delivery of goods and, of course, many services as well. Shipping rates from Shanghai have more than doubled. Shanghai becomes an important part of shipping from China, and prices of a 40-feet container on Asia and Europe routes have doubled, reaching $4,000. The conflict increased transportation costs also by up to 40%, and this have been far-reaching impacts. These disruptions are affecting the shipment of perishable items like coffee and fruits, which could result in higher price of consumers and slow down in the increase of food inflation. The longer voyages not only increase the fuel cost but also raise insurance premiums for shipping companies. Going through the Cape of Good Hope, which is there in South Africa, adds around 10 days to the trip in European ports and costs an extra $9 lakh in fuel, directly impacting shipping rates. Now, where does India come into play and what exactly is happening to India because of this crisis? According to the Federation of Indian Export Organization, almost 90% of the trade towards the west will be rerouted away from the Red Sea and around the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa. The time taken to move goods has increased substantially, with shipments being delayed by almost a month, that is almost 21 days to 28 days. India is heavily reliant on the Red Sea route through the Suez Canal for its trade with Europe, North America, and even North Africa and the Middle East. These regions account for about 50% of India's exports in 18 trillion rupees and about 30% of imports of 17 trillion rupees in the year March 2023, according to the CRISIL ratings. The ongoing chaos in the Red Sea is disrupting shipments of produce from basmati rice, tea, spices, grapes to buffalo meat from India, resulting in losses for exporters and producers. Similarly, imports of fertilizers, sunflower oil, machinery components, and electronic goods to India are getting delayed, rising the risk or increasing the cost to the consumers. This has raised concern that the unrest will lead to supply chain stalls and contraction of trade and halt slowdown in food inflation. Part of the inventory of basmati rice that we produce is laying in various parts of processing units, while some stock is now being sold to domestic market, resulting in fall of prices by about 8% in the local market. Now let us try to understand how other nations have responded to this particular crisis. The UK and the US have responded with a series of strikes against Houthis aimed at stopping further attacks and protecting trade through crucial shipping routes. The United States unveiled an international operation called as the Operation Prosperity Guardian to protect commercial vehicles and keep the Red Sea shipping routes open. This operation brought together many countries including the UK, Bahrain, Canada, France, Italy, Netherlands, Norway, Seychelles, Spain, and others. The UK and the US in the Security Council applies sanctions and arms embargoes against the Houthis, with the UK and US sanctions announced in January 2024. The EU granted preliminary support to its own mission over here. As of now, we are yet to see how Houthis are going to respond, and will this crisis come to an end or will lead to a bigger crisis? What are your thoughts on this? Write those in the comment section. Stay tuned to Newshamster for more such updates. Thanks for watching.